In the video, we're going to compare Nike's Zoom Fly 6 to ASICS Magic Speed 4. Both are $170. The Zoom Fly gets a big update, long overdue, whereas the Magic Speed 4 gains quite a bit more stack height and is really a different shoe than its predecessor. They both have more comfort-oriented performance uppers that fit quite similarly and are true to size. And they're both priced the same at $170. Let's get into the details. Hello everybody, Sam from RoadTrailRun. Today we're going to take a look at the ASICS Magic Speed 4, $170, and the brand new Nike Zoom Fly 6, also $170. And the similarities don't end there, as our new Nike has a combination of Zoom X, supercritical foam, and SRO2, more EVA-ish below, with a full fly plate carbon plate, while our ASICS has Flight Foam Turbo, their supercritical foam, and Flight Foam Blast, also with a full carbon plate and a cavity that's quite similar. So their stack heights are within 1.5 millimeters of each other, with the Magic Speed at 43.5 millimeter heel and 35.5 forefoot, 8 millimeter drop. The Nike at 42.34. But what we're going to find out when I do the A-B run, which I'm going to take you on, one on each foot, is there's quite a difference in ride between these two. And it's quite noticeable, really. So I'll give you a bit of a sneak peek. Firmer forefoot, more of a rolling motion, a bit more aggressive. Bouncier and softer, more of a vertical kind of motion, and a bit more stable at the heel for the ASICS. As you can see, we have sort of a cantilever versus a squared off heel. And then let's talk a bit about the upper. I'm going to get into that on the run. Very similar in fit. This is what I call a performance comfort kind of upper, softish mesh. The Nike's is a bit thinner, I think, but very quite similar. We'll get into it, but look at this. The Nike, unlike the Pegasus Plus. And so I just wanted to show you, you can see our Zoom Fly 6 has a much more rounded front of the toe box. It's a more kind of tubular kind of fit than the Pegasus Plus. I think the Pegasus Plus may have a bit more room sort of right where the laces end. But there's no strap over the top of the Zoom Fly. The webbing strap here sometimes can bother, especially when they're new. But you can see there's definitely an evolution in the fit here for Nike, with a more rounded, I would call more round, modern toe box with more toe box room. The hold is very similar in terms of the front, just a little bit different. Heel hold's good, a bit more gentle, I think, than the Pegasus Plus here with our Zoom Fly 6, a bit more comfortable. I think it's really an evolution in kind of the Nike fit we're seeing here. Now has a more rounded shape. The ASICS is a touch pointier, but equally as comfortable. They're both true to size. For me at 8.5, and I think the Nike's has a bit more volume than the ASICS. In terms of their weights, the ASICS, even with its 1.5 millimeter more stack height, comes in at 8.13 ounces, 230 grams in my US 8.5, whereas our Nike, not much more, but 8.5 ounces, 241 grams in my US 8.5. Where the difference might come from? I don't think it's the upper. Maybe this higher collar adds a teeny bit, but they're very similar. They have carbon. They have supercritical and non-supercritical foam. It may come from the outsole. Rubber is the heaviest component. And as you can see, the Nike has more outsole depth with its waffled kind of lugs, whereas the ASICS is a flatter profile. The ASICS grip is always really good, grips really well, and the Nike lugs are appreciated when you get a bit kind of off the smooth or maybe in a bit of snow. So I'm going to take them out, or I have taken them out on a A/B run where I'm going to give you a feel for the real differences between these two on the run. Go out on our run on the New Hampshire coast now. Okay, let's talk about the relative fit of these two uppers. So the Zoomfly 6 has a bit more volume, there's no question about it, and that rounded toe, a bit more rounded toe box and a bit more height. However, they fit very, very similarly. Both are kind of comfort-oriented performance uppers. The fit is true to size. I have a narrower medium foot, and I think the ASICS fit is a bit more kind of dialed in than the Nike, although both are really good. Lace up on both are similar and excellent. Heel hold, a little bit of an edge, I think, to the ASICS. Although I think the Nikes is just a touch more comfortable. So I'm going to keep going and give you some impressions comparative from the ride. So let's talk about the ride as we approach our freshly painted town barn. Isn't it cool? So the ASICS has a softer ride, no question about it. That may be due to the fact that it has 1.5 millimeters more stack height, but a thinner outsole, so maybe there's just maybe 2 or 3 millimeters more foam. Whereas the Nike has a snappier ride overall. Combination of the flexible plate and the outsole providing response has me turning over quicker at the front. Whereas with the ASICS, it's more of a bounce off the front. In terms of training suitabilities, definitely both are up tempo, both are carbon plated. The ASICS, I think, is a bit more forgiving on the legs, the slower paces, whereas the Nike really likes to turn over, near race kind of feel. It's also noisier. You can hear the plate. So the plate, I think, might be located lower down in the chute. Most of the boats are out of the water. A few more thoughts as we run along here by Rye Harbor. We've got more bounce in the ASICS, more and quicker response in the Nike. So either is excellent for up-tempo training, but I'd say the ASICS is a little more training friendly, whereas the Nike, for sure, especially if you want some flex, is a better choice as a racer for those who don't want to go all the way to Vaporfly or Alpha. So I think the ASICS is a teeny touch more stable, even though its heel is 5 millimeters narrower than the Nike. That may be, even though I said the foam was soft, it feels more stable, the foam in the ASICS or the layout of foams. And I think now that I'm moving along, the heel counter is a bit more secure, and that'll lead to stability, but no real issues with the Nike. Just the difference. Okay, a few conclusions. I think they're both very, very similar, as I said, in stack height and weight, and in construction with carbon plates and dual foams, a supercritical and a more EVA-like. I think the Magic Speed 4, because it's a little softer, a little more cushioned, and I think that even though it's only 1.5 millimeters higher than the Nike, I think that comes from the difference in the outsole heights as well. So instead of just 1.5 millimeters, we may have 2.5 or 3 millimeters more compared to the ASICS, and I think that makes a bit of a difference. So I as a training, up-tempo training shoe, and I think I would run it for a marathon. I'd run something else for a half. I'm going to pick the ASICS Magic Speed 4, 8.13 ounces in my US 8.5. Now the Nike is more, I would call a fast workout shoe. Up-tempo feel. It does have that extra traction, I think, even though ASICS grip is always really good. So it'll probably handle some rough stuff a bit better. It has a more relaxed fit, a somewhat more relaxed fit. I tend to prefer a bit more dialed in. Both of them have super soft, friendly uppers. As you can see, about the same thickness. The Nikes maybe a touch thinner. Both of them lace up just beautifully. The ASICS, even though its heel collar is lower, has a bit better hold than the Nike. Not sure why. In terms of that stability, now that I've got them off at the rear, you'll notice how the ASICS is more squared off, whereas we have a more cantilevered approach here to the Nike, which I think makes it just a teeny touch less stable at the rear than the ASICS. Let's press the heel counters. Okay, it's moderately rigid. And over here, about the same, but the hold is a little bit better. That may be due to it being a little narrower opening and having a touch less padding, so it's a bit snugger through here. In terms of the toe boxes, everybody likes to hear about the toe boxes. Quite similar, true to size for me. The Nike is a bit more rounded. If a teeny bit shorter, but I wouldn't worry, it's true to size. If you have a somewhat wider foot, the Nike might do you better. What would I use the Nike for? Well, I would use it for up-tempo workouts. I would race in it as well, especially if it was a somewhat shorter race. It's a great alternative to the full carbon. Even though it feels a bit thinner than the ASICS up front, the cushion and maybe the location of the plate, not sure the relative locations. What I really like here is some flex. As you can see, there's some flex, whereas our ASICS is more a rigid rocker, no flex. So you've kind of got a bounce off the front, not a problem. But this has a snappier, kind of quicker feel, if a thinner one up front. So, thank you very much for watching. We have full reviews of both of them on RoadTrailRun.com, written reviews. Have a great run. I'm going to keep going along the coast here. It's just beautiful today.